Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Marianne Brush, and I am the Communications and Marketing Supervisor for Romeo Community Schools. It is my pleasure to introduce episode 26 of the Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. Today's episode will focus on the district's 2024 climate survey and its connection to the district's strategic plan. With us today are the following district leaders: Superintendent Dr. Todd Robinson, who will host this episode, Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services, Ms. Jennifer McFarland, Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Mr. Rob Murray, and Director of Special Services, Ms. Mary Selden. I will now turn it over to Dr. Robinson to begin the discussion.
All right, well, welcome. We have a veteran group of podcasters here today, and I'm a little nervous because each of you have hosted at least a few of these over the course of the last 6 months. So I want to start by just kind of celebrating just the entire Keeping Up with Our Community effort, because it's been great. And I know our followership continues to grow, but I think for us internally, sometimes the work doesn't stop. And for us to sit here and talk about the good things that are happening in our school district really has kind of put some wind in my sails, just to actually do the podcast, and then of course to listen to those that we're not in. So for first-time listeners, like, go back and when you have time and listen to some of the previous episodes, because there's a variety of stuff and some really good stuff there, and not necessarily all time-stamped. So we're here today to actually kind of connect two efforts. We want to talk a little bit about the 2024 district climate survey and how we at the district level have taken the results from that survey and really tried to do our best to align them to our current strategic plan. So just for a little background, during December of 2023, Romeo Community Schools administered the second series of school climate surveys to students, parents, and school staff. The purpose of the surveys was to provide the school district with an overall understanding of the perceptions of Romeo Community Schools students, parents, and school staff related to school climate, and to compare our 2024 data, most recent data, to the original survey from 2022. We know that we did that 2022 survey as a strong recommendation coming out of the pandemic, to just get a handle on where the district was. We kind of got back to business, pretty efficiently, maybe as compared to other districts. So I think it's important to also note that when we talk about defining school climate encompasses the social, emotional, and physical characteristics of school community. Research shows that school climate factors have an impact on a student's sense of belonging, access to opportunities, and academic achievement. And so it's great that as we went through creating our strategic plan, I think these three elements, although not put at the forefront of what we were trying to do, really were represented. And so maybe a little easier for us to create some alignment with the feedback we got. In terms of participation, the surveys were given to instructional staff, and when we talk about instructional staff, it's pretty much all adults that work in our school buildings on a regular basis. Then we had a student survey for students in grades 3rd through 5th grade, and a survey for students in 6th through 12th. And then we had our parent survey. So from a participation standpoint, our participation levels were very similar in 2024. as they were in 2022. And, we work with a survey consultant company, and when they talk about, an adequate representation or participation, we certainly met those percentage levels and exceeded them. So the first thing I think we want to take a minute to dive into is we get all this feedback across rated questions and some open-ended questions. And how do we distill this to something that can actually be shared with, our staff, our parents, the general public? And so we called those in the original survey key takeaways, and we once again have developed some key takeaways that we hope to just, if you do nothing else with the results of this survey, consider the key takeaways as some of the things the main things we've learned. So I'll kick off with the first one. And our first key takeaway is the climate in Romeo Community Schools remains quite positive when comparing the 2022 and 2024 climate surveys. In 2024, survey respondents again identified certain aspects of school climate that merit ongoing attention, and those are kind of sprinkled across much of the rest of the takeaways. So I'll stop there and turn it over to Mary. I think you have key takeaway two, and what we see is these key takeaways in some cases have direct alignment to a focus area from the strategic plan, or in other ways we've connected them because maybe they're not as directly aligned. So Mary, I think you're going to take us through the next three as it relates to our focus area and our strategic plan of safety and wellness.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robinson. You're correct. Safety and wellness are linked to key takeaways 2, 3, and 4. So our second key takeaway is that students continue to feel safe at school and believe there are positive relationships between staff and students. Likewise, staff and parents report a significant level of agreement in those same areas. For key takeaway number 3, in 2024, secondary students, which are students in grades 6 through 12, presented an increased concern with peer disrespect and acceptance of people with different opinions, beliefs, and values. And also for key takeaway number 4, the 2024 survey revealed that parents and staff would like more resources to improve wellness for themselves and their children or students.
All right, we'll move into key takeaway 5 and 6. Mr. Murray?
Absolutely. 5 and 6, the takeaways relate directly to community of collaboration, which is the focus area of the strategic plan that I lead. Key takeaway 5 is related to student voice. We asked about this for the first time in 2024 and found agreements that instructional staff, students, and parents believe that students are able to provide input on what happens at school. We're going to get a little deeper later into the episode about how we're trying to take that and move it past some of the maybe more superficial input opportunities that kids have. We know they're the eyes and ears of the school and can play a critical role in climate and culture, and we want to be able to take advantage of that to allow for the greatest learning environment possible that we can. Key takeaway 6 relates more to district communication. Our parents reported that they value a variety of communication methods, the variety that the district uses, and our efforts to communicate through strategic methods, I guess. One of the drawbacks that we have heard from parents, specifically in our focus groups as we were going through the strategic planning process, relates to, while communication and the different methods of communication are great, there's too many platforms that are being used, too many email addresses or logins, usernames, and passwords are what parents are telling us. And so again, a little later in the episode, we'll talk about how we're trying to tackle that while still offering the same phone, email, text message, instant message type communication platforms.
Sure. I'll take the next one. Key takeaway 7 is pretty closely aligned to our strategic plan that I lead in teaching and learning in that focus area. And the survey found a high level of support for our educational program, quite positive comments, both in open-ended responses from parents, students, and staff. at all levels, and feedback from them affirm our strategic efforts to offer innovative opportunities for students. So two of our goals within teaching and learning have to do with academies at Romeo High School and aligning our pre-K-8. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper as we go. Some of our extracurricular offerings have improved. Our STEM programming at the elementary, we've been able to lift that up through some grants and Mr. Murray's leadership and the STEM teachers. So continuing to find new ways to reach our students and excite them about learning.
So thank you for that. So I think it's important to note we have 7 key takeaways, and just because there's only one key takeaway aligned with the teaching and learning focus area, there is a lot that can be unpacked from these. So the next thing we did is, we're in a little bit different chapter of where the district's at in terms of strategic efforts. So the 2024 school climate survey not only allowed for a comparative analysis on the level of agreement in the key components of school climate, but it also allowed for initial feedback on our current strategic efforts. So the 2022 school climate survey led us as district leaders and our leadership team to develop what at that time we called an action agenda to begin working in anticipation that we would have a future strategic plan, but we didn't want to wait. And so I think the other thing that's important for our listeners to know is, although we dove into this action agenda for a series of what I believe was probably about 6 or 7 months, we took that action agenda to the strategic planning process, and that was one of the key artifacts or one of the key sets of data that we brought. So it's almost like as the strategic plan was created and approved, the action agenda was within there, and we did not need that anymore. The district is in year 2 of implementing the 2023 strategic plan, and the 2024 climate survey included some new questions aimed to gather feedback on specific strategies and activities in the plans. So the report that you can find online, I think it's important to note now, it's called the Executive Summary. It's a couple-page overview of the entire survey. And as I mentioned earlier, if nothing else, I would encourage our parents, community members, even our staff members to review that report, because I think you can get enough from that to see just what did we learn from this second survey and how are we using it. So finally, I think before we talk a little bit about what we're doing with the data, we had these consistent results from the original administration in 22. And that's really positive, because we had good returns in 2022, and there were certainly some things we needed to attend to. But we also, I remember in that survey, we were coming out of COVID. We hadn't fully lifted all the restrictions. And so when we were asking people for feedback on what's one thing you would like to change about your child's school, like a significant portion of the responses to that were just specific to the pandemic. And so we were looking forward to this survey administration where that isn't a reality right now. What would parents mention in return? So I think our open-ended responses really led us to a lot of the feedback, but seeing consistent levels of agreement in areas that are important to positive school climate was good too. So one of the things that we haven't really dug into is we also now are considering those questions where we had a large volume of neutral response or neither agree or disagree, and what might we be able to do with those. So that isn't necessarily in our conversation today or in the executive summary, but I think just an example of we want to get everything we can out of the results of this survey and leverage it, but most importantly, align it to the strategic plan. So our next segment, we just want to talk about what we've termed strategic alignment, and when your focus area teams, which I think most of you have about maybe close to 10 district leaders on each of your teams, and your charge is to own that portion of the strategic plan and move the goals and strategies forward within that. So we bring this results from the survey back because we decided these questions connect to these focus areas. What are we going to do with this? So we made it pretty simple, I think. I think we always want to begin with the positive. So we said, what in the results for each of your focus areas affirmed the work that we're doing? And in some cases, that work is like near completion or arguably completed after year one of the plan, or certainly as we're midway through year two. So what have we affirmed? Next, we said, okay, it's clear this is still important. So there's things in our plan that we don't think we fully accomplished. So what is a continued focus? So what do the results tell us to affirm our work? What is a continued focus? And then lastly, what might be some new areas that we weren't necessarily on our radar when we developed the original strategic plan, and in some cases didn't even get mentioned in the 2022 climate survey. And I know we've just started that process of saying, where does this feedback fit? Does it fit in teaching and learning? Does it fit in safety and wellness? Does it fit in community of collaboration? And if it doesn't have a perfect fit, we just made an executive decision to say, let's put the work here. And so why don't we just talk about affirming first? So Jennifer, I'll have you kick us off and talk about, we look at the results from the 2024 climate survey, and it spoke to some things from your part of the strategic plan, teaching and learning, that's been affirmed.
Yeah, so you had mentioned earlier about we added some new questions in the 2024 survey that were not in the 22 survey. So one of them was very exciting for our team because one of our efforts was ensuring all of our students K-12 were aware of extracurricular opportunities. So it was really affirming in the survey to see that students were aware of the opportunities that they had at all levels. So that was really really positive for our team to feel like the work they put in at the beginning of the year to advertise and make parents and students aware of what was happening was really positive for us. In some of the open-ended responses, I got an opportunity to read the high school and middle schools, and it was very validating for the work that we've put in previous years to the academies at Romeo High School, and the momentum that we gained, surprisingly enough, during the pandemic, and really came out of it stronger than most communities that Fort NGL partners with. And so the continued growth and just the positive feedback from parents about their students' experience within the academies and the job shadow and the internships and work-based learning opportunities they had was really validating for the high school team in particular, but our focus area as well.
Mary, what have we affirmed in safety and wellness?
Well, for safety and wellness, our responses showed that students, parents, and staff agree that if a student needs help, there's a trusted adult they could go to. This was incredibly exciting for us because that's one of the main ways that we can combat, mental health concerns with students. And one of the ways that we can ensure wellness is knowing that if a student needs something, there's a trusted adult for them in each and every building. And then building off what Jennifer was saying, seeing the open-ended responses, it was really nice to see particular buildings, names mentioned, with thanks and gratitude of how particular people within our district have helped students that were struggling. And so that was really wonderful for us to see. Another one that was very affirming for us is knowing that staff and students feel secure in our buildings. They appreciate the increased safety efforts that we've made as a district, and they eagerly participate in our training and look forward to those refreshers because they know that we're prioritizing safety and they appreciate that. So it's really nice to see that that's affirmed as we move forward with building off of those ideas and progressing our safety plan.
Mr. Murray?
So we had a couple positive, well, there were many, but a few positive affirmations that stuck out in community of collaboration focus area. The first was that, parents affirmed that they value having the opportunity to keep themselves informed regarding student progress in school. And the district offers many ways to do that. The most typical one is through PowerSchool, our student information system. That's where parents can access student grades or standards achievement levels if you're thinking through an elementary lens, parent-teacher conferences, is the work that's done through our multi-tiered systems of support, right? Which is intervention, anything from tier 1 instruction all the way up to tier 3. So there's communication that happens there. And, report cards, elementary report cards are being overhauled for next year. So that could be a teaser of a upcoming podcast. I know it sounds exhilarating. Our second affirmation relates to us being able to solicit feedback from parents about where they feel like they need support in working with their school-age child related to current teen trends. We used a study out of Michigan to find kind of our category areas and ask parents to kind of rate what was most priority, and then left something that was open-ended as well in case something wasn't captured there. Ideas like vaping, social media use, healthy habits, managing depression, stress, and anxiety, along with technology use and internet safety. And so at our first state of the district that we've had, I think since the pandemic, correct? We were able to provide some opportunities for parents to attend sessions there. And as we will speak about a little bit later, there'll be opportunity either in a wholesale event like that, or what I like to call some micro events to continue our work with educating parents where they feel they need support.
It might be some podcasts already in the can, or maybe future podcasts,
Yeah,
Mr.
hint,
Murray.
hint, hint.
So it's good when we, just kind of reflect back on, what is school climate. It's funny because I remember talking to some third graders and asking them something in reference to that, and they're like, well, my classroom is cold.
Heat doesn't work,
but
right?
when we talk about sense of belonging,
Yep.
we talk about access to opportunities, and we talk about academic achievement, things that we affirmed just are directly connected. And so I'm confident that our work is embedded in what we want to come out of this. But, we also found some areas that it was like, okay, this is in the plan, but we need to stay focused on this. We can't let this one slide. There's still some work to be done. So Jennifer, how about teaching and learning as a focus area, and some highlights is what we consider in strategic alignment of things we got to continue to focus on.
Yeah, so actually Rob mentioned communicating with families about that multi-tier system of support or interventions, and that's a key area. It's one of our goal areas, is to really shore up that system and have it be a system in each of our buildings, and doesn't depend on what building you're at, of what kind of communication you get and what kind of services and intervention opportunities are there for students. We also need to ensure that students know who to ask if they feel they need more help. So that came out clear that sometimes kids are confused and parents are confused, and they're not quite sure, if they say something to the teacher, does it go anywhere? So just shoring that system up for parents, students, and teachers to understand it clearly. And then in the survey results, we talked a little bit about the affirmation of they're aware of extracurriculars. There's still a want for the secondary level in particular to recognize academic achievements of our students. So elementary rocked it. That growth from 22 to 24 was pretty tremendous statistically, but at the secondary level, our students and parents still aren't feeling like we're recognizing their academic achievements in front of their peers more than one time a year. So we're going to continue to find different ways to do that.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Murray, of those unique student assemblies that we get the privilege to drop in on once a month at our elementary buildings, and how maybe that for our third through fifth graders, just that those experiences have come back. They become more rich at a higher frequency, and maybe that alone
Correct.
had led to our elementary students feeling different about
Absolutely.
recognition. So continued focus from safety and wellness.
Well, safety is always a continued focus for ours, and we'll get into more details with the progress we've made in these last 2 quarters and coming up in the future later in the podcast. But another area of continued focus is parents and staff members said that they do appreciate receiving wellness resources. The vast majority shared that with us, and they like when they're available to access on demand, and they requested additional information to meet mental health needs, physical fitness needs, nutrition needs for their children or their students. There are various resources that we've created this year. I know we've had 6 podcasts on these topics just within the second half of this year, which was an incredible opportunity for us. And it's been very helpful to have MITS help us edit these podcasts so we could give this information to the masses, to the parents. And they like that on-demand component. Another piece that we heard too is that parents like to choose. And so having a variety of resources that they can access digitally, they can choose when, what, and where, they're going to use this information. And so that's something that we've heard in the survey results as well.
Rob?
So our continued focus really revolves around, communication, education as it should, right? We want to continue to focus on trying to find a more streamlined path towards effective communication between home and school. As I spoke about before, we have folks using many different platforms in order to communicate with moms and dads at home. And while well-intended on the receiver end of this, it just creates a headache in terms of, trying to remember, okay, what app is this? What's my login? What's my password? So we've had some meetings with app companies, right? Just to try and better determine what type of services could be offered. Because really what we're looking for is a one-stop shop, right? A one spot where you can, again, hit that app on your phone or one login and you can see email, you can see calendar, you can see instant message, you potentially phone communication, Facebook links, Twitter links. And so, we are an entity that has a definite start and a definite stop to our work here when you think of the fall and then kids getting out in the summertime. And so it always gets tricky, not just from a financial perspective, but also from a launch perspective. When's that right time to launch so we don't have a false start, not only for our parents, but for our teachers as well as they transition away and into something new. And so we're still kind of in the planning and preparation process of that, but look to, again, continue to build upon our progress. We also want to continue to invest in ways in which our kids are able to provide input about what happens at school. I spoke a little bit earlier about trying to get a little bit deeper into the weeds regarding, student input beyond what the Spirit Day themes are or what the school-wide reward is if we hit a certain goal related to a fun run or, academic milestone or something like that. And so what the Community of Collaboration team has done and will launch in the fall is they've created some key areas that we want our building administrators to be mindful of when they engage kids for input about what's going on in the school. School safety practices, so, a sense of safety in an unstructured or less structured spaces than the classroom. Community service, what could we do to give back to our community and how do we want to give back? Teaching and learning, student surveys related to their classroom experience. We've done some work there as well. We just haven't launched the feedback survey from student classroom experience. Safety and wellness, we heard from our elementary students especially, and it may have been K-12 at large about food choices. That's they would like a little more variety in their diet at school if that's possible. We know that there's some constraints there that don't always allow for that, but definitely worth the conversation. Check-ins with students, on relationships with trusted adults at school, relationships with peers and their own self-concept, related to Jennifer's focus area, extracurricular and enrichment opportunities. What other opportunities would you like to see? And then again, just the classroom environment in general. So those are 2. And the last one is we just want to expand our efforts to provide quality learning opportunities for all stakeholders, right? You think of the micro events, podcasts, state of the district, based on parent interest in educating themselves. That's one piece that we spoke about. We do have a collaborative professional learning planning team that Jennifer and I engage in the spring as we move into planning for professional learning for the following school year. So to keep those lines of communication open, the teachers who are doing the work are the ones who often know best where they need to grow, and they're always their own worst critics. And so listening to them is critical for us in order to be able to align our resources to support them. And then, the notion of rigorous and relevant curriculum for our students. The district's in a spot right now where we have the means to really look at all the curriculum that we have and ensure that it's the most rigorous and relevant materials that we can provide to kids. And if it's not, we can actually do something about it. And so it's a busy time in academic services, but a super rewarding one as well.
Fingers crossed for Monday night.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of that question, in the survey, which, we didn't change a lot from 2022 to 2024, but I believe learning is fun.
Oh, that's something we'll talk about, Dr.
Yeah.
Robbins.
So there's a lot to unpack there, and a lot that might be specific to students at different levels.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So we've certainly got some results that, connect to the plan and what we need to have a continued focus on. And then, I think to some degree we anticipated, what else is out there. And, we're open to the fact of, is there new things? Because we're even now, we're a distance removed from actually the creation of the strategic plan. And we talked about this plan being at nothing less than a 3-year strategic plan, but it could extend as much to maybe 4 or 5 years. And so this is that piece where I want to make sure our listeners know we're going to share some of these new things, but these new things and realistically need some time for us to maybe see how they fit in. Is it a new goal area? Is it just simply a strategy or initiative? And these really in reality might be things that will really hit the ground in January as we go into year 3. So a reminder that our strategic plan does work on the calendar year. And not on the school year. And we think that's been a benefit to us because there's so much that happens, at the beginning and end of a school year to not have us transitioning from year to year at that time has been beneficial. So we'll change it up a little bit here and we talk about maybe just a little bit on a couple new areas that we got. Rob, community of collaboration.
Sure. Our new areas in part are just an extension of our continued focus. We want to be sure that we're always being mindful of those teen trends that are out there, engaging parents through different mediums, not necessarily a district-wide climate survey, so we can stay current about where their needs are and as we continue to support them as they support their child in their educational journey. And then, always just being mindful of, the potential for new educational opportunities for our kids as well, especially when you think of the community at large. There's so much work that's being done 6-12, engaging students in the community. And, hopefully we're hoping at some point there'll be some reverse engineering so our kids at the elementary level will be able to take part in that process as well.
All right.
One of my goal areas.
I know. I'm teeing it up. I'm teeing it up.
Mary, I know we had a specific new area in terms of safety and wellness. Tell us about that.
We did, and this is a topic like we referred to a minute ago that's specific to a certain student group. So our secondary students in 6th through 12th grade reported an increase in student-to-student disrespect and a growing lack of acceptance when it pertains to differing views and opinions. So we would like to dig into that. We have overall a good pulse on our students and what's going on, but this is an area that we would like to massage and find out more information, have students give us more input to help remedy this situation between students to students. So they didn't report a lack of disrespect really from adults to students or students to adults. It was more student to student. So our safety and wellness team explored in multiple conversations, wondering, is this, a result of social media use, or, what can we do to help combat that? So we're looking forward to some different opportunities. I know Romeo Middle and Hamilton Parsons are going to be using Capturing Kids' Hearts. We're trying to see if there'll be different impacts from strategies we have coming up that will help with that issue.
And herein lies the overlap of how our focus area teams are intertwined, because we have to leverage student voice opportunities to maybe learn more about what is this, what do you mean by this disrespect, but inherently it's like, I think as a leadership team, we said, boy, what is the world around our kids teaching them? And how do we have to mitigate that?
Right.
In some cases, not based on the age of students, just think they know they're middle school, they know they're high schoolers, but almost to have to take a step back. And I think of a couple of our leaders who really just talk about it as a focus on empathy. And how can we just talk about that as a character trait and the importance of it. And in some ways, not maybe so much direct pointed but how can we just embrace, the strength of our community? Like, you don't have a conversation about the place without hearing community and or family. So we are who we are. We shouldn't hear this. So how do we make this part go away? Because
Right.
that is something that's kind of surfaced, and we want to address it, and hopefully, we can make kids think that their peers, are treating each other well.
No,
Oh, go ahead.
okay, along the lines of something that you said, Dr. Robinson, we also need to pay attention to leading indicators as well, right? I know we talk about this a lot, and it's difficult to forecast out and really think deeply. But the world, when a current kindergarten or first grader gets out into it, years from now, it's
Much
going to
different.
look very, very different, right? So it is our job to kind of understand what that may look like and forecast, how our instruction, and all that is school is supporting them to make them as functionally employable and college and career ready as we can.
Right.
I think one of the things that excites me is the conversations haven't at this point in time been maybe more traditional in nature, like consequence based or anything like that. That isn't, that era, someone said to me the other day, you remember when we shifted from, a zero tolerance to a restorative practice
Yeah.
industry, by law.
Mhm.
Right.
And so that's the piece that I guess I'm encouraged by it, because it, we'll hold kids accountable. Don't get me wrong, but we're really looking, when we talk about a new area, to be more empathetic. Yeah.
What's nice too with the 2024, 2025 mindset, it's not just our mental health professionals that can help address this.
Mhm.
It could be, learning how to tackle differing opinions in a debate class, or
Mhm.
when you're writing a paper for English, or something like that. So it can be built into the academics as well. How you can disagree but do so respectfully.
Mhm.
Sounds like some of our strengths in our profile of a graduate
Yeah.
that we'll start working on for middle and elementary soon.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a new area from teaching and learning.
Yeah. So the secondary school survey, 612 students, we need to dig deeper into number one, understanding what they feel is fun in learning, and just look at different ways that we're engaging students. So when we think of fun, we think of engagement. When students think of fun, we just need to find out what are they thinking is fun. Some of the opportunities that as adults that we're planning and I just think back to the academies planning at the middle school that we had this fall, and we had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade student representatives, and they were having fun, doing the planning and thinking about what a welcoming environment looks like, and sharing their voice. So we just need to dig deeper and spend some time around fun. That was one of the questions, Dr. Robinson, that had a ton of a high percentage in the neutral zone
Yeah.
as well. So that caused us a pause to say, while it wasn't, tremendously low, we had a high neutral. So we just want to dig into that a little bit further. And what does that look like? What does that mean? Are there some other things that we can help in the day or in a classroom so students feel engaged?
Yeah, I shared with the leadership team this notion of these questions that have significant neutrality or neither agree or disagree, and I feel like, in even discussing this individually with you, we look at that through the lens of like parents or staff, and I'm like, are they fully informed?
Yeah.
So we start throwing our educational jargon around. We gotta pause and let them in. And at least give them some sort of simple explanation, so when we're MTSSing and all of that, like, when we ask about things like that, are they just simply remaining neutral because they don't really know?
Right.
But then more importantly with kids, like, we got to listen maybe a little bit more to them to hear how they define or understand this concept, for us to respond to that. Well, we're going to do a little pivot here. And for our listeners, it's like, so you've heard about the climate survey, the 2024 administration, how we've taken the feedback from that and aligned it with our strategic plan. I want to pivot a little. I want to talk a little bit about our current work in the strategic plan. So as we moved into 2024, we went into year two, and we took some time to reset and kind of update our action plan. And now that we're coming here to the summertime, we're midway through year two, and you've taken some time with your teams and said, all right, what progress have we made specific to year two in the first, arguably 6 months. So Jennifer, I'll let you start, and just so I can set a context for the listener, our focus areas had specific goals. So, you'll hear a little bit about maybe what that goal was from our district leader, and then, that progress or those steps that have achieved in this year two in regards to at some point fully achieving that goal.
Right. So we had 4 goals within our area of teaching and learning. And the first one was to implement fully the academies at Romeo High School. So really excited. A year ago, March, we had sought feedback from our business partners and staff and students and anyone that was in attendance around our profile of a graduate, because when we wrote that in 2017, we didn't know what we didn't know, and the world of work changed. The pandemic really changed the way I think some of our business partners were able to work and continue to work during the pandemic. So we unveiled that in March to our academy partners and teachers and parents and other respected guests that were there. And I'm really proud of it. I know, Dr. Robinson, we worked hard at the graphics because our other one really wasn't eye-catching, but I'm really excited about it. Our 9th grade teachers actually had started working with the strengths and the attributes within the profile in January and created rubrics. So the end of the year semester exam for our 9th graders was an interview with business partners. I think some of our 12th grade teachers that didn't have kids at that time, and any other adult that was around interviewed our 9th graders based on those attributes within the profile. So really proud of that work, that completion. And we also worked hard to create a process, a written process to create a new pathway. So we know the pathways that we have are pretty strong still, in need of workers. But we know there are things on the horizon, and we want to be ready if a business partner or our Macomb County Planning and Economic Development Department comes forward and says, hey, there's this new area emerging within our region, you might consider. So we have a process now for that. So that was pretty exciting for goal 1. For goal 2 is developing those opportunities pre-K that align with our academies at Romeo High School. So I mentioned earlier about our planning in the fall with the middle school. We have our year 1 implementation plan set for the academies at Romeo Middle School that will launch in August. And so really, really excited about those opportunities. It connects to the idea of service learning that Rob talked about within the community of collaboration, working with nonprofits, community-based organizations for our kids to give back. This summer and fall, that's a sneak peek, so we haven't accomplished that one yet. But and we also have alignment for grades 4 and 5 with a signature event that align with our academy. So our 4th graders at the end of May, I believe, second year, that the Little Inventors connected with our mechanical design 10th grade students in that pathway in the DEM Academy. And then our 5th grade, all 5th graders experienced Laying Down the Law, which was Judge Andry in our district court provided experiences for all of our 5th graders that aligns with our law and public safety pathway.
Shout out Andary.
The queen.
I wonder if she's a listener.
I guess we're gonna find
If she's
out.
not now,
Yeah.
we'll get her to.
Yes.
And goal 3 was expanding student opportunities. Elementary, we're well aware. Secondary kids were well aware. We are taking an opportunity to understand our current offerings and to have a clearer picture once school starts. How many clubs elementary have, how many clubs middle school have, and introducing or possibly realigning clubs at our high school. So we think we're doing a good job. Survey said that they're aware of it. We just want to make sure that we have all of the opportunities that we can for our students. And then the goal 4 is enhancing the district-wide system of tiered supports, or MTSS, education lingo. We completed an audit for our tier 2 and 3 materials, and excited that hopefully we'll have some new materials for tier 2 and 3 for ELA at the elementary. And tier 1 instruction, as Rob stated, that's where every day in the classroom and having quality curriculum and materials. So on June 24th, before our Board of Education, there'll be 612 English language arts curriculum hopefully will be approved and adopted.
All right, safety and wellness.
All right, safety and wellness has 3 goal areas for goal number 1, which is improving students and staff feeling safe in our schools. One focus area under that goal was to implement a school safety awareness effort. Like Rob mentioned previously, we had a State of the District general session for everyone to attend in February. After that general session, we had district breakout sessions with topics such as digital detox, safety overview, finding good digital friends, and gave different tips to parents throughout those breakout sessions. Another area that we were working on is continuing emergency response coordination with our local agencies. Our SROs, or school resource officers, have been giving building tours to police and fire agencies throughout the community so that they could become aware with our surroundings and our buildings to best support our safety efforts. And then the third area of goal number 1 is to follow the district structure for emergency response training, practice, and review. And just last week, we had a tabletop activity where we had multiple district administrators and support staff and secretaries attend, along with emergency coordination agencies within police, fire, SWAT, conduct that activity with us, and it just was so eye-opening and so nice to bounce through our emergency plans with them, get their feedback, get their suggestions. They heard details from us firsthand about what we would do, what and where in our buildings. They gave their input, and so to have that communication ahead of time as we coordinate our safety plan was tremendous. I know a lot of people walked away feeling very grateful for having that opportunity. For goal number 2, we are improving students and staff feeling connected to our schools. This does have a lot of overlap with the other areas in the strategic plan, but we're continuing monthly recognition of staff and buildings. For this year, it was the Joy Award. So that brought a lot of joy to many employees to be celebrated, and they loved having pictures with the Joy Chain, and then celebrating those original Joy ambassadors when we return the Joy Chain to them at the end of the year was a nice way to round it out. We also are looking to continue regular communications of opportunities within the district for staff and students to feel connected. Goal number 3, creating a continuum of district-wide wellness initiatives that empower our staff and students. An area of focus here was to continue to increase student support led by professional mental health staff. We have increased exponentially our number of students that we serve by permission slip to our school social workers. We have many more lunch groups where students can socialize with the support of adults and gen ed peers to practice their social skills. We have staff pushing in for classroom lessons in a natural school environment. And again, the access that all students have, general education and special education, to our mental health staff has increased tremendously this year. That we've been very proud of that. Another area is adding additional mental health, behavioral, and wellness digital resources that are created and shared with staff and parents. Our wellness plan is published and available on our district website. We have other district resources that are digitally available as well. This is my 8th podcast so far in the last 6 months or so, and 6 of those are based on mental health and wellness. And so it was sometimes hard to plan and imagine where we were going to fit in our busy days and weeks, the recording of the podcast, but it was really exciting once we got here, how much we valued this time together and how excited our school psychologists, our social workers, our counselors, our gym teachers, our food service director, how everybody was so excited to come and share information on wellness. And it really was a bright spot for so many of our staff, which was nice, that they really thought that they were doing something new and innovative, and they were glad to share information in a different way.
Mr. Murray, let's talk about the first half of year 2 with community of collaboration.
All right. So we had 4 goals, 3 of which really had the focus of our attention in this portion of our school year, or our calendar year strategic plan. Goal 1 is establish consistent structures to promote student voice. Goal 2 is increase the number of community partnerships to our schools. Goal 3 is strengthen our connection with parents through effective parenting partnerships. And goal 4 is to grow and strengthen teacher and staff collaboration opportunities. So when you think of goal 1, that student voice piece, we did develop a teacher survey that we wanted them to give to their students to solicit feedback on the classroom environment, right? That classroom environment piece is tied directly to their performance evaluation. And so again, timing is everything. We didn't work to deploy that until probably February or Marchish, and we weren't successful this year in having that happen, but we do have it queued up for next year, and we'll work through that for sure to be sure that teachers have an understanding. You know, sometimes you have blind spots and your perception is one way, but maybe not necessarily the beliefs and feelings of others. And so we want to give them the opportunity to either affirm the awesome work they're doing or look for opportunities to grow as well. So we also want to be able to report on, have a better idea and be able to report out on student feedback related to, again, the culture and climate of school. And so that will involve us deploying what I had talked about earlier related to those non-superficial opportunities for students to provide feedback about what school is like. And so we have that ready to go in the fall. We'll be attentive to that in all of our buildings, and then we'll analyze that data and look for opportunities that we can continue to evolve the culture, you know, at our schools. Goal 2 is all about community partners, right? Or this strategy, as I should say. So Jennifer and I work to create a community partner list that is a one-stop shop, right? If we talk about community and how important it is in Romeo, you just have to open the spreadsheet to see the ridiculous
Over
amount
300.
of community advocates and support folks that we have. You know, individuals and businesses that are willing to give us their time and talent. That's all we ask for, right? We're not asking for money. We're just asking for their expertise in the field to support us. And that's been a real big thing at the high school and is creeping into the middle school. But some of our elementary folks don't know that some of these partnerships exist, right? And so we want to be able to be sure that they have an understanding of what trusted agents are out there in the event that they want to reach out for support. Not only to know that they're there, but also to be mindful that we're not double and triple and quadruple dipping, you know, some of these community partners, because we want them to continue to partner with us. Along those same lines, we're working with Jennifer and the middle school as part of the transformation process to come up with a new partnerships protocol. You know, a lot of it's going to be born out of the successful partnerships that have been developed at the high school in that process. But really what we want to be able to do is set somebody up that has not worked through trying to develop a community partnership with a plan, right? And then on the other side of that, we want our you know, supporters in the community to know what to expect when somebody's approaching them, again, for that time and talent. Related to, oh no, that was the last. Well, this is related to something we've already talked about. Explore the steps necessary to create a Romeo Community Schools mobile application. Right. I wouldn't say we're in a stall there, but we still have work to do again from a financial perspective, and then also trying to understand when the best time maybe to deploy that would be. Looking at goal 4, it's really related to vertical articulation, right? So that's teachers working with each other above and below their grade levels, really trying to understand what kids are coming to them with, what they're not coming to them with, and how we may be able to support that systemic and systematic process a little bit better. It's not a blame game, right? It's really just an idea of here are the key pieces, the ins and outs, if you will, that students should be coming to a specific grade level with. And if teachers feel like that's not happening, okay, how can we diagnose and remedy what's there? And then the last piece is working with our professional staff, our support staff, and the like to ensure that we're providing meaningful professional development for all of them, right? Our goal is to grow all employees in our districts, not just those who are working in a classroom. And so just to continue to have those collaborative conversations, and that'll kick off in August and more into September when we can really, wrap our heads around what professional development is going to look like.
That was really a big win that I think cuts across from second half of year 1, first half of year 2. Just in terms of how we've leveraged our, we even in the district calendar call it Teacher Professional Development Day,
Right.
but
It's
really
really
now,
district,
yeah,
right?
it's
Correct.
really, we're really, we've stood some things up. We've listened to those, the unique needs of those groups. And I'm also grateful for how, as we're thinking through the lens of bringing new initiatives or training to our buildings, we don't just think about how do we schedule this for our teachers, but how do we also schedule it for our support staff, either at the same time or uniquely creating sessions for them to attend when it fits better with their work year and their availability. All right, I'm going to challenge you now as we look ahead to quarter 3 and 4. I want you to give me just, the top maybe 2 or 3 things that you have some excitement about, or you think kind of lead the way for your focus areas. We think about the second half of this calendar year. So we'll start with teaching and learning. Mrs. McFarland, give me just a couple of those things that you think will be essential to the rest of this year too.
Yeah, I think number 1, now that we have a communications and marketing supervisor, is to really refresh our communications plan that we had created for the academies at Romeo High School, but really be inclusive now of all 3 levels and what we're doing to ensure. I think earlier you talked about maybe our parents just aren't aware. So we really want to lift that up. So we're ready in the fall to January to really get the word out about what we're doing strategically. And then the second one that I'm most excited about is the work around the profile of a graduate. So we've got a middle school team that started working and will continue to work over the summer for the profile of a middle school scholar. And in the early fall, we'll be selecting some elementary people to sit on a planning team to create that profile of an elementary scholar. So two really key pieces to the development of our academy model.
Yeah. I got to go back, shout out Marianne Brush. I'm pretty
Name
sure
dropper.
I'm pretty sure she's a listener. Mary, how about a couple of things that are going to be kind of central to safety and wellness the rest of this year too?
Yeah, what we're looking forward to is continuing those monthly safety meetings, bi-monthly with police and fire. We're looking to retrain our staff on AVERT to realign our safety efforts for everyone within the organization. We're also going to roll out a PowerSchool application that would help with emergency information and reunification. Again, it's important to recognize all staff, and I don't know what the title of next year's award will be yet because we don't know that theme, but that's something that's really popular and people look forward to that.
Yeah.
It's nice to see too the high fives, the congratulatory emails that people get when they read the updates monthly and share in that experience.
Yeah, I'm my own worst enemy there because top and choose joy. It's
Well,
like,
and the joy chain.
Yeah, the joy chain
All
was
right.
epic.
I can't wait.
you know, I remember when the Tigers were good.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
yeah.
Hey
So
now.
things happen in cycles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lions.
We're also
Bless you,
excited.
boys.
We're also excited to create more mental health resources that we can share digitally. I know that we have different groups that we're working on now, where we're pooling resources both for staff and administrators on Schoology. So they'll have mental health topics, behavioral topics that they'll have strategies that they can access on demand for themselves.
Great.
As well.
Thank you. A couple of second half of year 2 here. What are we looking for from community of collaboration?
Yeah, so really, this is going to be a wide net cast
Yeah.
on a lot of the work that we're doing because there's a lot of similarity there. But it's really increasing the strength of our feedback loops, right? When you look at again our work centered around students providing feedback to our staff in buildings about culture and climates, and then staff doing the exact same thing with administration regarding, again, not only just environment, working conditions, professional learning. And so parents, soliciting feedback from them about what they still need to be an active partnership in their child's education. So yeah, just really continuing to work through what we've started, but making it stronger.
Yeah. So, I'm just thinking of just efficiencies. And so I'll take us back to, where we started with the climate survey and, that survey, the 2 iterations of it certainly have served its purpose. But, when we go out and we get that feedback from that number of people, the amount of time it takes for us to truly analyze it along with our day jobs, and then put it into action. I've learned in the second iteration, we were like, second time, we'll be quicker. It really wasn't. And we didn't want to cut corners, but I think now, as I think you mentioned, Rob, the ability to seek input in smaller chunks from specific groups that we're going to be able to turn around quicker than this notion of larger comprehensive surveys. And I think as we get more efficient at doing that, where we might have missed someone in this survey, this large survey, we might have the opportunity to get to people if they don't engage in one of these smaller, more frequent input cycles. So I want to highlight that there's comprehensive reports in terms of the 2024 climate survey. If you're on our website, you go to Inside RCS, you'll be able to click to a specific page around the 2024 school climate survey. If you're into data, then we know there's the extensive comparative report. There's also summary reports when we think of our different stakeholder groups around the open-ended responses. What's the best thing about my child's school? What's the best thing about my school? And what's one thing I would change if I could change one thing? So we've kind of pulled together those top 3 to 5 themes. And one of the neat things I think we did again this time is, so people understand what that theme really means, is we've pulled those model responses. So there's 3 to 5 responses from that stakeholder group that represent what the theme is. And we can just take that alone back to our kids, for example, at certain grade levels and said, students said this in regard to this question, and we as adults want to understand more what we believe you meant. And so there's a lot there if you want. If nothing else, the executive summary will get you enough. I want to thank the 3 of you, because leading the focus area teams is certainly time consuming. It's essential, but I appreciate, as we're in the middle of our first 3 years, really, the progress we've made and the opportunity to spend the time that we have, and it could have been more, allows us to say, those times where we feel like, are we truly accomplishing anything in the day-to-day? It's clear that we are, and that's all for the betterment of the school experience for our kids and our families. So thanks, and good luck in your future hosting of podcasts, and I'm sure we'll meet at the table again.
Thank you.
Go Bulldogs.
Well, thank you, Dr. Robinson, and all our district leaders for helping us understand how the 2024 climate survey ties into our strategic plan and how both play an integral role in guiding our future efforts. Be sure to tune in next week as our summer series continues. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's MITT.tvpodcast@gmail.com.